There's something different about seeing America through a windshield. Not from an airport window or a crowded tour bus, but mile by mile, with the music up, snacks in the passenger seat, and absolutely nowhere to be except the next unforgettable stop on the map. Because America was practically built for road trips. You can wake up beside the Pacific Ocean, drive through forests older than some countries, and end the night under skies so dark you can see the entire Milky Way above your dashboard. Some of the best places in the US aren't the major cities, but the legendary roads connecting them. Like the turquoise bridges stretching across the Florida Keys, the cliffside curves of California's Pacific Coast Highway, or the red rock canyons of Utah that look like another planet entirely. It's the random roadside diners that look frozen in the 1950s, the scenic pull-offs you almost skipped, and those quiet moments where you look out the window and completely forget about your worries. Some drives are peaceful, some are wild, but the best ones have one thing in common. You don't want them to end. All right, tank's full, playlist queued up. Let's hit the road and count down the 10 best road trips across the USA in 2026. Number 1. Florida Keys Overseas Highway. One of the most unique road trips in America has to be the Florida Keys Overseas Highway. It's not your normal road trip. When you're road tripping the Florida Keys, you feel like you're gliding on the surface of the ocean. Stretching about 113 miles, 182 kilometers, from the mainland to Key West, this legendary section of US 1 connects the islands with 42 bridges, including the famous 7-mile bridge. If you've got a full week, start slow in Key Largo on day 1, since it's the northernmost point. Here you can spend your first afternoon snorkeling or kayaking near the coral reefs and mangroves, then settle into the laid-back rhythm of the Keys. On day 2, head to Isla Morada. The road starts weaving between turquoise water on both sides, which feels like a dream if you ask me. By day 3 and 4, you'll want to spend time around Marathon and Bahia Honda. The old railway bridges, shallow blue water, and stretches of white sand here are some of the most photogenic parts of the entire drive. But a lot of travelers rush this road during the day and completely miss how beautiful the bridges become during the sunset. You know, once the sky turns orange and pink. On day 5, you can start slowing down around the lower Keys before reaching Key West. Then give Key West at least 2 full days. Walk Duval Street, catch the sunset around Mallory Square, and if you can, book a trip out to Dry Tortugas National Park. It sits about 70 miles west of Key West and is only accessible by boat or seaplane, which makes it feel incredibly remote and untouched. The best time to drive the Overseas Highway is usually between late November and April, when temperatures are milder and hurricane season is over. And one of the things almost all locals will tell you is to leave early in the morning, especially on weekends, because one accident or weather issue can back traffic up for miles. Number 2. Utah Mighty 5. This has to be one of the most breathtaking road trips because the route connects Utah's 5 national parks: Zion, Bryce Canyon, Capitol Reef, Arches, and Canyonlands. So you can start Utah's Mighty 5 road trip. Start in Zion National Park, where you'll be met with massive canyon walls and narrow river hikes. The scale of Zion catches people off guard immediately. One thing to pay attention to here is parking and shuttle access. During busy months, Zion requires shuttle use in the main canyon, and parking fills early in the morning. On day 3, drive toward Bryce Canyon. The elevation jumps dramatically here, and suddenly the desert transforms into cool pine forests and orange hoodoo rock formations that almost look artificial. Sunrise is the moment you don't skip. But because Bryce sits at over 8,000 feet in elevation, temperatures can drop quickly even during warmer months, so pack accordingly. Your day 4 should be reserved for Capitol Reef National Park, which is often the quietest stop of the 5. The drive along Scenic Byway 12 between Bryce and Capitol Reef is considered one of the most beautiful roads in America, with cliffs and massive open desert views the entire way. After that, you can spend the 5th day at Arches National Park near Moab. This is where the landscape becomes pure red rock country. Delicate Arch at sunset is unforgettable. Because timed entry requirements at Arches can change seasonally, you'll want to check the National Park Service website before your visit and arrive early, or head in during the late afternoon to secure a parking spot before the sunset crowds build. And you can finish the final 2 days in Canyonlands National Park, where the overlooks feel endless. Some viewpoints sit thousands of feet above the Colorado River system. The best time for the Mighty Five is usually spring or fall, when temperatures are more manageable and the desert heat isn't overwhelming. Number 3. The Great Smoky Mountains Loop. 1 minute you're walking through mountain towns filled with pancake houses, handmade crafts, and old Appalachian charm, and the next you're driving along mist-covered ridges with endless mountains. That's the Great Smoky Mountain Loop. So to start off this road trip, it's best to go to Gatlinburg and Pigeon Forge on the Tennessee side. Gatlinburg gives you that classic Smoky Mountains atmosphere with mountain lodges, moonshine tastings, and easy access to the national park. From there, spend time driving Newfound Gap Road, which cuts directly through the Smokies and climbs to dramatic overlooks near the Tennessee-North Carolina border. You can also take the detour here to hike around Kuwohi, formerly known as Klingman's Dome, which is the highest point in the national park at 6,643 feet. And if you time it right, the observation tower's views can stretch across multiple states on clear days. After spending 2 days there, you can slow things down around Cades Cove. This wide valley loop is one of the best places in the park to spot wildlife like black bears, deer, and wild turkeys. Early mornings matter here because traffic builds quickly once the day starts. Days 4 and 5 would be perfect for crossing into North Carolina toward Cherokee and Bryson City. The roads become quieter, the forests feel denser, and you start getting that deep Appalachian atmosphere. For day 6, ride the Great Smoky Mountains Railroad out of Bryson City and spend time exploring the unique shops and local restaurants around the historic downtown. Finish your final day relaxing in smaller mountain towns like Townsend before looping back toward Tennessee. The best time to drive the Smokies is usually late September through October for fall colors, or late spring when wildflowers begin blooming across the park. And you can thank us later for that. Number 4. Pacific Coast Highway. You can't say Pacific Coast and not start the road trip in San Francisco. As you're rolling south out of the city past Gray Whale Cove, where the skyline fades behind you and the Pacific opens up ahead. From there, days 1 and 2 carry you down to Monterey and Carmel by the Sea, where sea otters drift through kelp forests and Cannery Row still holds that old coastal fishing town energy. A must on this stretch is the 17-mile drive through Pebble Beach, where private coastline roads reveal cypress trees, coastal cliffs, and crashing surf that feels almost unreal. By day 3, you enter Big Sur, where Highway 1 clings to cliffs above the ocean, and every turn feels like it could stop you in your tracks, especially around Pfeiffer Big Sur State Park and its redwoods and river valleys. This is also where you'll want to slow down for Bixby Bridge, one of the most iconic viewpoints on the entire West Coast. On day 4, start heading to San Simeon and Hearst Castle, a massive hillside estate that overlooks the Pacific and feels like stepping into another era of California history. From there, you ease into Santa Barbara on day 5, where whitewashed Spanish-style architecture comes alive with palm-lined streets and a slower coastal rhythm. Days 6 and 7 should definitely be reserved for Malibu and into Los Angeles, where cliffs, beaches, and city energy all collide in one final stretch of Highway 1 before the road officially melts into the city. The best time to drive the Pacific Coast Highway is typically late spring through early fall, when skies are clearer and coastal fog is less intense along key viewpoints. But be careful, the one thing most people don't expect are closed-off sections on Highway 1. This happens often due to landslides or repairs, especially around Big Sur. So checking the road condition before you start driving isn't really optional here. Number 5. Black Hills and Badlands, South Dakota. The Black Hills and Badlands road trip combines rugged prairie, eroded rock formations, and forested mountain drives across western South Dakota. Badlands National Park is the general starting point, known for its sharply eroded buttes, layered rock formations, and scenic drives through one of the richest fossil beds in North America. Day 1 is all about driving the Badlands Loop Road and stopping at overlooks like Big Badlands and Yellow Mounds, where you actually see the scale of the terrain. And day 2 should start with catching a sunrise over the Badlands. Why? Because the rock layers shift colors as the light changes across the cliffs. By day 3, you move toward the Black Hills and settle into Custer State Park, a massive preserve known for its granite peaks, open grasslands, and free-roaming wildlife. And on day 4, you can take the Wildlife Loop Road, where bison herds often block the road entirely and prairie dogs scatter across the plains in every direction. Day 5 should be for Needles Highway, a narrow, winding route through granite spires. And day 6 is when you'll head to arguably the most iconic U.S. monument, Mount Rushmore. Nearby, Crazy Horse Memorial continues carving into a mountain on a scale far larger than Mount Rushmore, and it remains one of the most ambitious ongoing stone sculptures in the world. On day 7, Spearfish Canyon Scenic Byway closes out the trip with limestone cliffs, waterfalls, and dense forest roads. And the best time to see all of this is typically late spring through early fall, when roads are open and weather conditions are most stable for scenic driving and hiking. Number 6. Blue Ridge Parkway. Stretching 469 miles through Virginia and North Carolina, the Blue Ridge Parkway feels like a slow-moving balcony above the Appalachian Mountains. Typically, you start the road trip at Shenandoah National Park in Virginia, where Skyline Drive flows directly into the parkway, and the forests immediately swallow up the noise of everyday life. By day 2, you'll be winding through Virginia mountain towns like Roanoke and stopping at overlooks where layers of blue mountains stretch across the horizon, especially during early morning fog. And on day 3, you head toward Mabry Mill, one of the most photographed spots on the parkway. On day 4, the road climbs higher into North Carolina toward Grandfather Mountain and Lynn Cove Viaduct, which is an engineering landmark that curves dramatically around the mountainside without cutting through the fragile terrain. Days 5 and 6 are all about Asheville and the surrounding mountain scenery, where you can explore waterfalls, mountain trails, and sections of Pisgah National Forest before continuing south. As the final day approaches, the parkway gradually descends toward Great Smoky Mountains National Park, ending one of the most scenic drives in the eastern United States. The best time to drive the Blue Ridge Parkway is usually late September through October, when fall colors peak across the mountains, although spring wildflower season is also spectacular. But be warned, most travelers don't realize just how slow this drive actually is. Beyond the strict 45-mile-per-hour speed limit, ongoing infrastructure projects mean you will likely encounter active detours and phased section closures. So checking live National Park Service Blue Ridge Parkway road conditions before your trip is a must. Number 7. New England Coastal Drive. This stretch of the northeastern United States is packed with centuries of maritime history, dramatic Atlantic coastline, and some of the most charming small towns in America. So you should start it in Newport, Rhode Island, where oceanfront mansions from America's Gilded Age line the cliffs above the Atlantic. The famous Cliff Walk gives you views of both the crashing coastline and historic estates that once belonged to families like the Vanderbilts. By day 2 and 3, you head north past the historic Massachusetts coast and into coastal Maine, where fishing villages, lighthouses, and seafood spots start appearing around every turn. Towns like Kennebunkport and Portland are worth slowing down for because this is where New England's coastal atmosphere really comes alive. On day 4, you should head into Acadia National Park, one of the crown jewels of the East Coast. Driving the Park Loop Road gives you granite cliffs, pine forests, and sweeping ocean views, all packed into a single day. Cadillac Mountain is especially famous because it's one of the first places in the United States to see the sunrise during parts of the year. Although you should know that you must reserve a vehicle pass online well in advance to drive up to the summit during peak season, so plan accordingly. On day 5, Bar Harbor becomes the perfect place to slow down, where you can choose between whale-watching tours or fresh lobster rolls. And finally, the last 2 days are all about taking these slower coastal roads back south, stopping at small harbors, hidden beaches, and roadside seafood shacks that most people only discover by accident. The best time to drive New England's coastline is usually late summer through fall, especially from September to October. Number 8. The Great Lakes Coastal Road Trip. This route combines small harbor towns, forest drives, and freshwater coastlines across some of the most scenic parts of the Midwest. Chicago is where the road trip should generally begin, before heading north along the Lake Michigan shoreline into western Michigan, where it's all about beach towns and sand dunes. By day 2, you reach Sleeping Bear Dunes National Lakeshore, where giant sand bluffs rise above Lake Michigan and scenic drives overlook miles of freshwater coastline. The Pierce-Stocking Scenic Drive is one of the highlights because it gives you elevated views across forests, dunes, and the lake all in one loop. Spend day 3 on Mackinac Island, where horse-drawn carriages still dominate the streets. Ferries connect the island from Mackinac City and St. Ignace, giving the trip a completely different pace for a day. Days 4 and 5 are all about Michigan's Upper Peninsula, where you enter what feels like an endless forest. Driving north toward Pictured Rocks National Lakeshore brings dramatic sandstone cliffs, waterfalls, and bright turquoise water that almost looks tropical under sunlight. One of the most unforgettable moments comes around sunset near Munising, where the cliffs glow orange against Lake Superior's deep blue water. By day 6 and 7, the route loops back south along Lake Huron, passing small lighthouse towns and stretches of quiet shoreline that feel far removed from major tourist crowds. The best time to drive the Great Lakes coastline is usually from late June through early fall, when temperatures are warmer and lake effect weather is less unpredictable. Number 9. Arizona's Scenic Route 89A. Route 89A is officially designated as a scenic highway through some of the state's most dramatic terrain, especially between Sedona and Flagstaff through Oak Creek Canyon. So we'll be starting this road trip precisely around Jerome, a former mining town built directly into the mountainside with steep streets and historic buildings overlooking the Verde Valley. By day 2, you'll arrive in Sedona, where massive sandstone formations glow red at sunrise and sunset. The town itself is surrounded by hiking trails, desert overlooks, and narrow canyon roads that make even short drives feel cinematic. On day 3, you'll want to drive through Oak Creek Canyon, often called one of the most scenic drives in Arizona. The road twists sharply through steep canyon walls and dense forest before climbing nearly 4,500 feet toward Flagstaff, where you'll spend day 4. You can explore Flagstaff and the surrounding high country. At around 7,000 feet in elevation, Flagstaff feels dramatically cooler than the desert below, with ponderosa pine forests and mountain scenery that surprise first-time visitors. From there, day 5 takes you north toward the Grand Canyon's south rim, where Route 89A connects to one of the most iconic landscapes in America. Standing along the canyon overlooks at sunset feels almost impossible to describe until you see the scale for yourself. On day 6 and 7, looping back through Sedona at golden hour completely changes the mood of the trip one last time. And the best time to take this road trip is usually spring or fall, when temperatures are milder and the desert heat is less intense. Number 10. Route 66. We couldn't talk about U.S. road trips without this one. Route 66 isn't just a road trip, it's the road trip. Officially established in 1926, Route 66 connected the Midwest to the West Coast and earned the nickname the Mother Road. You should start off in Chicago, where the skyscrapers and old architecture make the beginning feel cinematic, before the road gradually opens into the American heartland. By days 2 through 6, you're crossing through Illinois, Missouri, and Oklahoma, where classic roadside diners, restored gas stations, and vintage motels still line parts of the original highway. Towns like Tulsa and Amarillo keep that nostalgic Americana atmosphere alive in a way very few places still can. One of the most unforgettable stops comes in Amarillo at Cadillac Ranch, where half-buried classic Cadillacs rise from the Texas dirt covered in layers of spray paint left by travelers from around the world. Days 7 through 10 bring you into New Mexico and Arizona, where the scenery changes dramatically into red mesas, desert highways, and old trading towns. Stops around Albuquerque, Petrified Forest National Park, and Winslow are essential. As you move toward Flagstaff and Seligman, some of the best preserved sections of historic Route 66 begin appearing, complete with neon signs, old diners, and motor courts that still embrace the highway's golden era. Days 11 through 14 carry you through the Mojave Desert, and finally into Santa Monica, where the Pacific Ocean marks the western end of the route. Standing beside the Route 66 end of the trail sign after crossing so many states feels like finishing a piece of American history. The best time to drive Route 66 is usually spring or fall, when desert temperatures are more manageable and long-distance driving becomes far more comfortable. Whichever one of these road trips you choose in 2026, you won't regret it. You'll get to see parts of America that feel straight out of classic movies. But if you can, go on more than one of these. Why? They're a way to get away from mall culture, suburbia, and the boring, monotonous downtown, where it's the same shops, restaurants, and buildings. Just remember that because many of these natural escapes are so popular now, some parks and scenic drives may require advance permits or vehicle reservations during peak season in 2026. Once that planning is out of the way, this is truly where you breathe together with Mother Nature.